Hey, you Stygian dogs! March 26th marked the release of issue number 1 of Patrick Zircher's Solomon Kane, The Serpent Ring, published by Titan Comics and Heroic Signatures. Zircher, of course, has recent history with Robert E. Howard's righteous, if not conflicted, Puritan, and I'm certain that fans of his Solomon Kane, Master of the Hunt, originally serialized in the Savage Sword of Conan issues number 1 to 3, not to mention his Blood from a Stone short in issue number 4, well, fans are going to be thrilled with this return to the character in this new 4-issue miniseries. And well, I loved the glorious black and white aesthetic of his work in The Savage Sword. The Serpent Ring arrives in stunning full color, scoring Zircher a creative hat trick as he takes on writing, art, and color duties. We'll take our usual thorough look at the book, after which we'll explore the titular Serpent Ring. But before that, let's take a sneak peek at issue number 20 of Conan the Barbarian. Jim Zub made available these 4 preview pages of the issue, and it releases on April 16th. The issue picks up with Conan confronting the recently revealed shape-shifting Zula, and things turn to swift action as the strange sorcerer is unyielding in his mission to destroy any snake worshipper that he finds. With a creative call-out to broader Conan lore, a soul-severing journey culminating in the promise of future adventure and sweetly dark deserved justice, this issue is an absolute trip. So prepare yourself. And finally, I'd be remiss if I failed to mention that it reveals some pretty darn direct ties to the Solomon Kane story we're about to explore. So make sure to grab it on April 16th. Now, on to issue number 1 of Patrick Zircher's Solomon Kane, The Serpent Ring. And here we go. I'll flip through the book, present a few close-ups of panels. I'll try not to read too much verbatim, but I'll definitely outline the general plot and happenings. I want you to be curious and to grab your own copy. Seriously, buy this comic. I want to give you a sense of how things look and to convey my excitement and a few summary thoughts. But be warned, if you want a pure reading experience, and I know you do, I'd caution you about spoilers. If inclined, feel free to skip ahead to the conclusion. My review there will be spoiler-free. On the inside cover, an advertisement for the new remastered oversized omnibus editions from Titan Comics and Heroic Signatures. Check these out. They're a great addition to your bookshelf. On the opposite page, credits for the teams at Heroic Signatures and Titan Comics. Turning the page, we get a map for wayfinding and an introduction to the character via the Puritan's path. Solomon Kane, warrior, wanderer, guided by faith and honor. With his rapier and a brace of pistols, the sword of vengeance defends the weak and battles the wicked. Be they wild brigands or the nameless supernatural terrors of the dark. A man of few words but fierce conviction, Kane's path has carried him from his Devonshire home to the moors and haunted castles of England, the dark forests of Europe, and the Turkish hordes of the Ottoman Empire. Now, Kane finds himself a privateer on an English galleon in the service of Queen Elizabeth. Here, on the high seas, Kane will be drawn into a quest unlike any before, one whose consequences will coil serpent-like through the ages of the world. In the African kingdom of Ndongo, by way of correspondence from one Abramo Bansad, we're introduced to wayfarer Paolo Laurenti. His thirst for knowledge fulminating in frenetic flight. On this mission funded by Rolando Zarza, Knight of Malta, a man of the sword, a man who expects results, Laurenti's discovery warrants extra discretion. But here in Ndongo, discretion be damned. Many lives are lost in the lust of pursuit. The explorer barely escapes the desperate chase, the sea separating the survivor from serpentine slaughter. Off the Barbary coast, a ship in service to Queen Elizabeth prepares to board a Portuguese vessel, the Gaviota, and among those sea dogs, Solomon Kane. The Serpent Ring, Part 1, Dead Man's Promise. Patrick Zircher, writer, artist, colorist. Richard Starkings and Comicraft's Tyler Smith, letters. Chris Butera, editor. Matt Murray, consulting editor. The blood of brave men is spilled. No friend to Protestant England. Portugal dominates trade from the East Indies, the Americas, Africa, sugar, spices, gold, and slaves. The Puritan is at a loss between right and wrong, for piracy is piracy, regardless of under whose name it is performed. Kane, seeking to parlay the ship's surrender, is forced to fire his flintlock. What folly! For this is not the captain. 'Tis Paolo Laurenti, he who escaped death in Africa only to be murdered at the hands of this man of God. Forgiveness is asked, and granted for a favor, delivery of the artifact to the aforementioned Abramo Bensad of Venice. A scholar who resides in the segregated Ghetto Vecchio with his daughter Diamanta, his days spent in the Biblioteca Marziana under the employ of the Marquis de Fior, yet always an outsider. In Napoli, and an introduction to Nico, a carousing man about town, a man with information. For Don Zarza, he is the bearer of bad news. An English galleon has sunk the Gaviota off the Barbary coast. Ill news indeed for Rolando Zarza, he who funded Paolo Laurenti's expedition. The good news, an English galleon has been spotted nearby. Signs suggest that someone has made landing. Perhaps not all is lost. Plans are to be made. In the Passo del Furlo, Solomon Kane ponders the promise made to a dead man and the events that brought him to this moment. And innkeeper's loose lips have spread the news of his arrival to those who would inquire into Paolo Laurenti and the Gaviota. Kane prepares a prayer that everlasting peace be granted to this troublesome trio as flintlock are fired and steel finds home. In the Biblioteca Marziana, Diamanta visits Abramo, the scholar poring over a map of Africa. Has there been word from Uncle Paulo? News of treasure from Ndongo's interior? No, not since last he wrote. At a Jesuit mission in the kingdom of Ndongo, Father Goncalo seeks answers. 8 villagers and a sailor are dead. Mbandu and Tonjaro will investigate. Signs. In the grass, one of the killers was wounded, and badly so. He crawled away and is now discovered. And it's most disconcerting, for sons of Set, this is no man. In the Ghetto Vecchio, Diamanta and Abramo return home to an intruder, the Solomon Kane, wounded, come to fulfill a promise someone doesn't want him to keep. And so ends issue number 1 of Solomon Kane, The Serpent Ring. And man, what a great issue. I hesitated presenting his work in my typical format because truly it doesn't do the issue justice. Especially Patch's excellent 3-page opening. It's just so richly layered. We're being treated to something really special there. This is such a solid introduction, setting a high bar for what's to come. And heck, the Serpent King hasn't even been revealed yet. Just awesome stuff. Turning the page, we come to the covers gallery. After the covers gallery, we come to Monsters and Missives. It's a letters page, followed by an advertisement for the trade paperbacks that have been released so far from Titan Comics and Heroic Signatures. These are, of course, worth picking up. And on the back cover, advertisements for the Solomon Kane Heroic Legends shorts. All of the titles in this series are definitely worth checking out, and I do hope we see them released in a print edition one day. What I'm presuming to be the titular Serpent Ring first appears in Robert E. Howard's The Phoenix on the Sword. This King Conan story, the first Conan story, was published in the December 1932 issue of Weird Tales. And this is where I'm obliged to mention that that story was a reworking of a Kull story titled By This Axe I Rule. In the story, the ring is an object of interest and great power to the sorcerer Thoth Amon, who seeks to harness its dark magic for his own sinister ends. The object will appear again in Howard's short horror story, The Haunter of the Ring, first published in Weird Tales in 1934, and featuring occult detective John Kirwan. In that story, its provenance is given, the ancient and accursed ring of Thoth Amon, handed down by foul cults of sorcerers since the days of forgotten Stygia. If the Serpent Ring that Zerker introduces, and we haven't seen anything in this issue, if it's the same artifact, it'll serve as a neat middle chapter in the ring's journey from ancient Stygia through Kane's time in the 16th, 17th centuries into Kirwan's modern era. It gives the ring a sort of mythic continuity and positions Kane as a possible unwitting player in a larger cosmic game. The promise in this story's introduction that Cain will be drawn into a quest unlike any before, one whose consequences will coil serpent-like through the ages of the world, invites some fun speculation. Just what consequences, and for whom, and for when? Will Jim Zub's Scourge of the Serpent event series connect in some way? And what about the Serpent Men? We haven't even talked about the Serpent Men. With this first issue of Solomon Kane, The Serpent Ring, Patrick Zircher draws readers in with a narratively layered and action-packed introduction. The first 3 pages of the story possess an entrancing, almost filmic quality that really speaks to the medium's magic. You'll be hooked. And this before we're even introduced to Solomon Kane. As for Patch's Puritan, I continue to enjoy his take on Cain, righteous, brooding, swift to violence when required, burdened by the moral weight of his actions. Those looking for elements of the supernatural, well, this issue hints at the eerie, especially the grand reveal towards the end and the silhouette early on, and I suspect that as things progress, aspects of supernatural horror will come to the fore. The historical grounding of the issue is certainly one of its greatest strengths. Zircher's meticulous attention to period detail, whether in fashion, architecture, or geography, transports readers to a vivid Renaissance Europe. From seafaring vessels and cityscapes to the gated bridge of Ghetto Vecchio and the winding paths of the Passo del Furlo, the settings feel alive. The contrast between these European locales and the bright and open African grasslands enriches the visual tapestry of the story. It reminds readers of how the real-world history of the Common Era can echo the mythic vastness of Howard's Hyborian Age. Solomon Kane, The Serpent Ring #1 is a compelling debut that sets a high bar for the rest of the series. With its richly detailed settings, curious cast of characters, historical grounding, and the promise of deepening ties to the Howard mythos, the issue stands as a testament to Patrick Zircher's dedication to both historical authenticity and the enduring legacy of Robert E. Howard's creations. Thanks for watching, liking, heck, why not subscribe? And until next time, take it easy, you Stitchin' Dogs.